Again, welcome to the Guide Fireside Chat series. My name again is Fred Kojucheme, and I will be your host. Today I have with me a very special guest, Mr. Ernest Kofi Nsia Youngman. And most of his friends call him Kofi Young. That's his alias, I believe. So he will tell us a lot about himself today and his accomplishments, especially with the book that he released he released this internationally exactly about a year ago. And actually, it's exactly a year ago today, which the book was released internationally in London. So again, thank you for joining us. And please feel free to share the link with your friends and family. Hopefully they can join us and learn something about the Golden Stool. I believe most of us know the history and the story of the Golden Stool, but we're going to take a different spin of the golden, on the Golden Stool. We know the history, but Mr. Nsia has done a remarkable job, telling us a story about the Golden Stool through a different lens. So that's what we are here to discuss right now. So Mr. Nsia, again, welcome.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Mr. Kofi Nsia Youngman? And also, Youngman doesn't rhyme with your other names. So can you tell us where that name comes from?
Well, now you let me tell you about myself. The young man, we will talk about it later. I am a videographer by work. I've been in the videography business for close to 45 years. In fact, I can say I'm one of the first people to start videography in Ghana. And I've done a few video movies some 25 years ago, before the Chewas and the other stories started. We were the few people who started video movies seriously in Ghana around the early 90s. Now, I did Shoeshine Boy with Nana King. Nana King wrote the story, and I helped him with videography work and helped him direct it. We also did another movie, The Police Officer, with Godwin Kote, the late Godwin Kote. And from there, I moved into some little politics, and I joined President Kufuor's campaign as his videographer and one of his public image personalities, assisting him in trying to bring himself to the world. And I followed him till he won the election and became president, and worked for him as his archivist for the 8 years that he was in office. Okay. And I started the book sometime around the time that I was doing the video movies. Around that time, most of the stories that people who joined the fray were stories about witches and ghosts, snakes, and terrible mother-in-laws. I felt we should look for another way of telling our stories, because if that is why we want the whole world to hear about ourselves, I don't think witches and ghosts are the best stories we can tell about ourselves. Why not something about our chieftaincy, about our lives, different parts of our lives, other than the witches and ghosts? So I decided to look for something that I thought the whole world will appreciate, something that can make news, something that can attract people to Ghana. And I realized that taking the Ashanti nation and the Golden Stool as a theme to write a story about may be more presentable than any of these social stories that people were writing. And then I also felt that we should do a story that can also match up to any other story done on the international scene for movie, for distribution. So I chose the Golden Stool, and I chose the kind of story I wanted to build around the Ashanti kingdom, which is also very known. But I can say it's one of the biggest kingdoms still surviving in the world. If it is not the second, it could be the first after the British or the British hierarchy. So I felt I should use Ashanti nation, the Golden Stool, to build a story that will meet the world's expectation. That's how the whole story started.
Okay.
It's taken me some 20-something years to put the story together.
Wow, 20-something years.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, today is the first anniversary of the launch of the international edition of the book. You launched it in London about exactly a year ago, the 25th of October in 2019. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you gave us a gist of why you wrote the book, but what was the inspiration behind it? I mean, is it because you are an Ashanti and you know your culture and you are in love with your culture, so you wanted to share it with your world? Or what really inspired you to really write this book briefly?
I wanted to write a story by a Ghanaian for Ghanaians so that it will present us to the world in a light that is more positive than anything else. People, we've been doing some movies. They've done some movies already. We did the Kukwantumi Road to Accra. I was part of the cast. We did Nana Koto, African Timber, Heritage Africa, Deadly Voyage. All these movies, I played role in as cast. Apart from Heritage Africa, which was written by Kowansa, all the movies were written or produced by foreign entities. So if people are telling our story, what about us? Why should we allow foreign entities to come and tell our stories for us? So I decided that we must start writing our own stories, but we must write it in the same style and presentation as the foreign entities are doing, because they do it that way. They go and sell it and make better money. Whereas when we make our small video movies, the only people that will buy will be only the people in Ghana and a few Ghanaians abroad. It doesn't make anything. And people invest so much time and energy in it that they just get pittance.
Okay.
I'll ask you, a hotel in New York, a 5-star hotel in New York, if you want to come to Ghana to come and see a 5-star hotel in Ghana, it must have the same facilities as a 5-star hotel in New York. So if you don't make a 5-star movie like they are making 5-star movies in Europe and America, your films won't go anywhere.
Very true.
I started that story as a screenplay for a movie. But along the line, I realized that if you look at the value of the production, I might not even get the money to do the production. So halfway through, I changed it into a novel.
Okay.
And in fact, I can say that changing it into a novel helped me to really do better research, because in the movie you may cut a few things off, but in a book, people will want to see what you have, read what you have, and confirm it with the authentic source to see whatever you have put there is true. Anybody can see that you are just making it. But then the research that I did in the preparation of the book gave me a better insight into the story that has brought it to what it is today.
Okay.
It has greatly improved and given me far more different dimensions of the story than I would have done when I was doing the movie.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So just a brief storyline here. I heard about your book through a lady by the name of Bernice Ekufo.
Oh.
And it was a chance meeting. I was in New York for a radio interview, and then she happened to be there, and she linked up with me later and said, "Oh, I have a book that I think you should look into." A friend of mine wrote it. I said, "Okay." So she told me about the book, and then I looked it up, and then from there, I think she gave me your number, and then we talked, we got in touch. And then when I was in Ghana in December, you and I met, in Accra, and basically just try to learn a lot more about the book and what your plans are. And here we are today, exactly a year after you launched it in London. I didn't even know this. We here talking about the mysteries of the Golden Stool. So I really appreciate her efforts in linking us up, because I think I told you you know, when you met with me, you gave me a copy of the book, a signed copy of the book. And on my way back, you know, to the US, that was the book that I decided to read because I had quite a long journey. And I must tell you, in the beginning, you know, the first maybe 30 pages, I wasn't sure where the book was going because I thought I was going to read a book about the history of the Golden Stool. But then the book started in New York. And that's the most fascinating part of this book. That the storyline started in New York. And I thought I was lost. I said, where is this book? What is this book about? But I'm going to get more into that, and I'm going to tell our audience why I felt the way I felt. And I think most people will understand when they read the book. But please tell us, why did you decide to write a book? Not just a history book of the Golden Stool, but a fantasy adventure story. You know, you have a lot of stuff in it about, you know, technology, science, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff in it. So why did you decide to write it that way?
Well, it looks as if you have already told my story for me. It shows how well you have read and how much you appreciate the story. You see, I had traveled a little bit around, and some of my personal experiences of my life, I can say, makes a little bit part of the story. In fact, some of the instances, I wrote it around experiences that I had run into in association with kind of stories that I wanted to tell. I wanted a story that does not only, when we say that we are writing a historic story, then it's only history that we can go to. Or we should do a flashback in a way that, oh, somebody will go and sit down, he sleeps and dreams, then he goes 30 years. But no, I try to bring the past to meet the future in contemporary times. That is how it is. That is why I started in New York. And I wanted people in New York to see how they link with the people in Africa, people in Ghana, by their tradition, particularly the people with color from Africa, how they link, so that when they see scenes in New York, it looks like it is about their life. But then, as you rightly said, how does it link with the Golden Stool? Then you could see the blend where it flows gradually into bringing us to Africa, to Ghana, to Kumasi, to where the Golden Stool is, and how the whole story evolved.
Okay.
So that is the style I wanted to use, and I wanted it to be authentic and modern in a way that younger people who have affinity to Africa and affiliation to Africa will find an easier way of understanding and appreciating the story from their perspective.
Okay.
That is how so that it doesn't become completely cultural, traditional history, but something contemporary with history still linked, interwoven together with the story.
Excellent. Yeah. I think you recently, the Ghana Education Service have approved the book to be used in secondary schools around Ghana, right? That was recently something that was granted.
Yes. When I finished the book, a few people who read it felt that the book has a lot to educate younger people, because our current curriculum for education has taken away history, tradition, and culture from our curriculum. We don't have it as part of our area of study. The little that they have is only in social studies. That's very, very little. And this gives a way to make students feel like they want to go and find out more about the history and tradition that they are not being taught so well in school. If you look at the syllabus of the student in primary school and in high school, it's very, very little. So a few people who had read the book said that, look, it would do well if the students will read it. So I took it to the Ministry of Education. They have an office called National Council for Curriculum Assessment, for them to look at the book if indeed it will fit what my friends who have read the book were saying. And
Okay.
after a whole year of reviewing, but they found very, very little errors you need to correct. But then eventually, I've been given the approval that the book is fit to be used as a supplementary reader for senior high schools.
Very good.
And I
You,
think,
you see, this brings back some memories. As you know, I went to school in Kumasi. I went to Opokuwari, and I did literature in Opokuwari. And I remember vividly the books that we read. You know, Merchant of Venice. You know, Chinua Achebe's book, Things Fall Apart, was one of them. In fact, that was probably the only or the two African books, one of the two African books that we read. Right, and that, as you know, that's a monumental book. You know, it's a, you know, it's been heralded all over the world. But your book, to be quite honest with you, brings back the memories that I had when I was reading Chinua Achebe's book. You know, about African traditions, our culture. You know, and the stories that we have, the heroism, you know, of our people. And you know, I don't want to give up the storyline of your book, but there are a lot of there are a lot of similarities between what I read in your book and Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. That shows that you did a lot of work. You put a lot of work into this book. And, you know, for me, you and I have had several conversations, and I've told you how impressed I was with the book after I took the time to read it. It took me a while to finish it, but it's a really marvelous, you know, work that you did. So, I mean, I know you went to seek the blessing of Tunfor Opokuwari, the king, before you wrote this book. Otunfor Osetutu, I'm sorry. Otunfor Osetutu, the second, before you wrote the book. Why, for the benefit of our audience, why was it necessary for you to seek his blessings before you wrote the book?
you see where it is gotten to now. The people who assess the book assess it as an authentic source of information. Therefore, if you are writing something that you look at the future of whatever you are doing, it's better you go to the original source of the information to seek authenticity and clarity about whatever you are putting down. In fact, there was one part that when I went, before I went to Otunfor's place, I saw one particular chief. I cannot mention his name, not for anything, but I think it's a privilege I had him to look at the book. He read the book in 2 nights. He told me that he could not put it down, but he had to go somewhere the next day, so he had to leave it halfway through, picked it up the next day, and completed it. And he thinks it's a good book. You need such authenticity so that at least at the end of the day, whenever anybody picks it up and he checks from history, he can confirm the characters that you have in the book, the roles that they are playing, the storyline, activities that the people will perform. In fact, one other person, when I posted it on online, read the preface, the introduction, immediately sent me a message that, my friend, this part of the story that you have there is wrong, and showed me to correct it. I thought I was doing just a fiction. I shouldn't bother anybody. But he realized that I was telling a story that has history, that has a tradition that still exists. It is good that I correct the mistakes and put it online so that tomorrow, if anybody should follow my story to come to Ghana and goes to Nsia to see Otunfor, he will be able to see what is in the book really playing live. And that is exactly why I needed to go. And when I finished, I took it to him. And of course, once I am writing about him, it's only fair that I give him the opportunity to have the first look officially at it, to say that, yes, go ahead. And indeed, when he also saw it, he recommended it to another professional person to look at it, to advise him. It took me almost about 8 months after before I was able to launch the book.
Okay.
So I have taken my time, and I've taken a lot of things into consideration so that at least it's history. I want to be judged by history that I did something that will be there forever. We're talking about Chinua Achebe. If you took his story back to Nigeria and you look at the tradition of the Imofia people, you realize that exactly things that he said there are things that are authentic with the tradition that they are practicing. It's exactly the same thing that is happening here. Unfortunately for us, I also did literature. I did Things Fall Apart. I read some, I think, Macbeth, no, Merchant of Venice, and then also Tales of Two Cities. In fact, Tales of Two Cities is one thing that actually gave me the feel of building the story between New York and Kumasi.
Okay.
The transition between the two cities. There are two different things happening at two different areas, but the similarities of the activities, why somebody sitting in New York should be interested in the Golden Stool in Kumasi. So this is the source of authenticity that I needed to build. That is why I had to send the book to Lutum for his blessing. And since then, I think I feel very proud that at least I've done something that even he, as His Majesty Lutum, appreciates.
Very well. So the book, again, was released 2 years ago. And for the benefit of those who are joining us, we are talking to Mr. Ernest Nsia, Youngman, and he's the author of the book, Mysteries of the Golden Stool. That book was released about 2 years ago in Ghana, and it was released about exactly a year ago in London for the international audience, our international readers. We're talking about the Golden Stool here, so we cannot share some historical facts about the Golden Stool, because there are people who may join us who may not have the privilege of learning about the background or the traditions and the history of the Golden Stool as we have. So can you share with us, what is the significance of the Golden Stool, especially to the Ashanti people? And I have, before you answer that, there is a confusion, for those of us here, living outside Ghana. Sometimes we say Ashanti Kingdom, or others will say Asante Kingdom. Which one is it? Is it Asante or Ashanti?
Asante.
Asante, because I noticed that's what you wrote.
It is anglicized by the British by making it Ashanti, but it is Asante.
Good. I'm glad you clarified.
We appreciate it. We know you are referring it to Asante, so we take it. We say Ashanti.
But no, we have to get it right, because I've had that conversation with someone who says Ashanti or Asante. We have to, put it for what it is. It's Asante.
Asante.
And, yes.
Asante.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So yeah, tell us, what's the significance of the Golden Stool to the Asante people?
Well, the history legends have it that the Kingdom of Asante started with a few states who were suffering from local colonialism by the Denshras, and they felt they needed to liberate themselves. And when King Osei Tutu, who became the first king of the Asante Kingdom, there was no Asante Kingdom before King Osei Tutu. When he started, he, with a friend, spiritualist, who thought he could help him to build the kingdom, asked him to find something that will help to bind them. And Okonfanochi, who is a spiritual friend that he had, by the legend, say that he conjured the Golden Stool from the skies, from the heavens, and used it as a symbol of unity and nationhood. And the whole Kingdom of Asante, its soul, spirit, and existence is linked to the Golden Stool.
Okay.
And with a few nations that joined them, I think about 5 that joined together to face the Denshras in the war that defeated the king of Denshra, in Team Jakari.
Mm-hmm.
From there, the Ashantis decided that they will come together and form a nation. And after that, a few other nations that were around there joined them. And it has grown from there till now. In fact, the reason why the British fought so much with the Ashantis when they tried to invade the Gold Coast at that time was that they knew that the Golden Stool was the power that was keeping the unity and the strength and the existence of the Asante Kingdom. And if they were able to take it away from them, it would disintegrate the state. And they tried several wars, which they failed. And it was until the Asante Prempeh the First realized that the last war that they fought around 1896, realized that the people were dying so much that he felt it wasn't necessary to continue a war. By the time he will finish, he will not have any human being to rule over as a king. So he decided that if by taking him away was what was going to save the nation, he was prepared to surrender, as the British had requested. And he surrendered, for which they took him away from Gold Coast and sent him as far as the Seychelles. In fact, when they took him away, the British ravaged the city of Kumasi, ransacked it, and burnt it down in trying to destroy the kingdom that the Asantes have built up to that time, and also in search of the Golden Stool. Unfortunately, they could not find it. They could not find it. And in fact, if they did, I don't think the Asante Kingdom would be in existence today. So anybody who has any story that they took it away, I don't believe that is true. Because the Golden Stool is still there. It is what is keeping the Asante Kingdom together, and it's what is making the Asante Kingdom still exist today. And anyone who comes to Ghana today, the Asante always celebrates the Golden Stool in a festival they call Akwesidae. In fact, the Ashantis, they have a 42-day calendar in a month, 6 weeks. And they celebrate 9 of them every year. And when they are celebrating, it is the Golden Stool or the various stools in the various traditional units and then the Golden Stool or Asante Kingdom. They celebrate it like that. They call it Akwesidae, where the traditional stools of ancestors are brought out, cleansed, and supposedly the ancestral spirits are fed and to seek blessings and prosperity from them for the next season. Okay. That is what I can say for now.
Okay. I must say, I really admire how you tied in the Akwesidae festival, to the climax of this whole storyline, how you ended the story, and without giving the story away, I just liked how you crafted that, brought that back.
If you agree with me, in every struggle or in every endeavor, when you end it, you must celebrate. And in fact, the celebration is what is in the story. And if you look at the narration, if you read the book, you will see exactly how the Ashantis go through, not exactly all the secrets, but at least from a simple man's observation, how they have to go through the celebration of Akwesidae. And it's very interesting, very, very interesting. And there are a few documentaries around that. You will see the king riding in palanquin with a whole retinue of over 1,000 people moving at the same time, and no hitch, no body falls, no trampling, and they move just like that, as if they are going to war. And they send a king who rides in the palanquin and who will go and sit in state for everybody, including state functionaries, presidents, and invited guests from all over the world to come and pay homage to him. That is how the Golden Stool is celebrated.
Okay, just a little, going back a little bit to history. I believe the governor at the time when King Osei Tutu was sent to the Seychelles was Sir Garnet Wolseley.
Prempeh the First.
Prempeh the First. I'm sorry. Garnet Wolseley, Governor Garnet Wolseley. That was the name, right?
He was in the war in 1876.
Okay.
And it was he who the Ashantis fought in the war they called the Sagranti War.
Sagranti War, and that's what I was coming down to. that they named or Ashantis called the war Sagranti War because his name was Sir Garnet Wolseley. And
Yes.
because our older ladies and gentlemen couldn't say the name properly, they said Sagranti War, meaning Sir Garnet Wolseley's War, right?
Yes, that's how it is.
Okay.
Sagranti.
Sagranti War. Very, very interesting. So anyone who's been to Kumasi basically comes, the book brings everyone back to Kumasi. When you read the book, you know, if you know your way around Kumasi, all these various areas that this book describes, you will feel like you are standing there when you're reading the book. You know, everything that's happening. I mean, there's a lot of suspense in this book. You know, there's love, there's action, adventure. Everything is in this book. And that's what I find very fascinating, how you're able to tie everything together. Now, what was the reason behind writing the book, you know, using modern technology, not only airplanes, you know, drones, you used, I mean, there was just so many things that we look at today.
Closed circuit television.
Yes, I mean,
closed circuit television. That is the fantasy about it, and the fascination about it as well. You see, and I also try, and I knew a lot of people who want to read this book, maybe people who want to know more about Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're talking about tradition, Kumasi is the center of tradition in Ghana, period. Otunfuo is the only traditional ruler who has his name even written in Ghana's constitution. So you can see how big and mighty he is. He is the paramount chief of other paramount chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he is Otunfuo. Nobody else in Ghana has that kind of traditional leverage than him. Nobody. And I wanted people who will come to Ghana to come and see some of these things for its history and its relevance to the international world history, if you want to call it that way. I also have other locations that you can see. I actually walk you through certain vantage points in Kumasi that if you go there today, you will find them. Yes. The same way that you will see in New York areas that I identified, mm-hmm. and how I went. They were places that I have been before and I have seen them. I walked them in the places before, and therefore writing about them wasn't very difficult. It's the same way I also wanted people who had not come to Ghana before to be able to see what Kumasi is, yes. And feel and would say that this guy describes the place as if I was standing there. Can I go and see what it is? There are also other tourist points that are in the book as well that I wish I can't tell you. If you want to see where there are, buy the book and read. And you will see the tourist points, that very fascinating areas that you would love to go there. Of course, the beaches, the castles, and the forts, they are all there, and other places. So it was just a way to draw people to the attention to Ghana and get them to like Ghana. I know somebody like Danny Glover has been to Ghana before. He has even come to see Otunfuo, the previous King of Opokuware II. He came there the first time when he was a king, and has come around when Osei the second too is the king. So people like them, Danny Glover, apart from him, Stevie Wonder. Last year, a lot of celebrities came to Ghana when the Year of Return was launched, mm-hmm. And about 1 million tourists were recorded in Ghana the whole of last year, particularly with the Year of Return. And you can imagine people coming because of the history that it has. And I felt that this would be a very good source of information for a lot of people who could not come, so that they will use it as a medium of attraction to get them to feel like they wish they had been here.
Very
so
well.
if you don't have the book, those who are Ghanaians who can recommend it to their friends, non-Ghanaians, let them go and look for it. It's on Amazon bookstore. It's also on Author House.
Yeah.
And then Barnes and Nobles.
Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, Barnes and Nobles there. It's there. And it's not very expensive. I think it's about $18 or so. You can buy one and send a copy to a friend as well. Get your friends to read. Where is your copy?
Well, you know where my copy is. I gave mine because you know, we have to send it to LA for the manuscript to be compared to the manuscript. You know, for what we are doing. We can't talk about that here. So mine is in LA as we talk. Somebody is enjoying the book, and I don't have the opportunity to to have it with me to show the our audience. But I want us to get into the book quite a bit. I know we don't want to give up the storyline, but there are some things that we have to talk about. So the whole point of this book was an attempt to steal the Golden Stool, right? And as you've said that there's been other attempts in the past. I mean, the British did tried so many times to take the Golden Stool, but they could not. So tell us a little bit about that. Why was it? Why did you craft the story around that? That a professor came to New York and basically started the story from there. Tell us a little bit about that without giving out the whole story.
Yeah, you see, Kofi Nsia as the main character of the book. Of course,
that name sounds familiar.
My father is also called Kofi Nsia.
Okay.
And, I didn't do it as a tribute to him though, but it fitted him very well. He's supposed to be a lecturer in anthropology. Of course, he is. And had been going around selling Asante Nation to the world. And he thought he could come to do an exhibition and of the Golden Stool, history and lectures about the Golden Stool in New York. And there was this thief who also have heard about it. And he felt that once such a person has come, it means he's a direct person that he can link to the Golden Stool. He wants to steal it. He had already stolen other artifacts from Africa before, and he thought he could come to steal that as well. So that's how the thief got interested and decided to come to Africa to steal the Golden Stool. Now you see, you yourself, you said it, that some of your friends say when they pick the book, they cannot put it down. It is the authenticness, if there's a word like that, that I try to make it look quite natural. That's what when people pick it up, they say they cannot put it down. And at the end of the day, you realize that most of the adventure stories that are written, people either they come to steal it or they come to destroy it, and it's started in the same vein. Look at the Indiana Jones series. They were all chasing other artifacts around the world. It is also in the same vein that the Mysteries of the Golden Stool also ran. And then if we can look at it from that aspect, it brings together what the whole world is supposed to be looking at every time. The Golden Stool, I know, is one of the world history, world heritage artifacts. So if we can have it like that, then definitely the whole world's attention comes to it whenever anybody tries to make any attempt at it. That is the perception that the gentleman who wanted to steal it had. It's supposed to have powers. The powers that it has is what has protected Ashanti. So if you can possess that one, what will you be? So these are the things that, and many others that drove him to want to pick the Golden Stool as a trophy. And when somebody wages a war at your heritage, you try to fight it. And that is what Kofi Nsia tried to do. And in various forms where the story took him, of course, sometimes you are an unwilling hero. You don't intend to do anything.
Yes.
But then circumstances push you in such a way that you are driven by your passion and love for your country to stand up against all aggression, all intimidation and colonialism, including the stealing of our tradition, our lives. And so the West or Europeans started stealing from us long before the Golden Stool. In fact, it haven't even stopped. Take cocoa. Cocoa industry makes almost about trillions of dollars in confectionery every year. But Africa or the people who grow cocoa get only 5% of the whole business. Why should it be like that? That's why I decided that I will want us to tell our own story. Let us start with this. Take, for instance, all the history books that we have read, most of them were written by white people. They wrote it to suit themselves. How can somebody say that he has come to Africa to come to discover Africa? When he came here, he met people who carried his things to walk him to Niger or walk him to anywhere else. But he says he had discovered. But what about the people who were sitting on that land before you came? So we have our story being twisted by people in a way that if we don't wake up and start writing it ourselves and allow people to write it for us, they will write it the way that it will suit them. That is the rationale behind the story, so that we can tell our own history by ourselves the way that the world should know us.
Very good, very good. You know, Professor Kofi Nsia in the book became the unwilling hero, as you put it. He also found love. And I must tell you, when I was reading that part, it was as if I was rediscovering myself all over again, you know, as a young man. That you know, how your words, the description of, you know, affection and everything that was involved with that. How do you, I mean, is it, do you have a background in psychology? Have you?
You want me to say that one of my personal experiences that I said, some of my experiences that I said it was in the book is one of them there.
Well, that's for you to say. I didn't put it in your...
those who want to know it, let them go and read the book.
They have to read the book, eh?
When they finish, I won't say it on air. When they finish and they call me privately.
There's a lot of passion in the book, I must say. You know, there's a lot of passion in the book, a lot of love, emotions, everything. I mean, it was really beautiful the way you put it. And if it was a real life story, both, you know, the lady and the professor would be very, very, very happy. You know, they'll be a very happy couple because it was just a beautiful demonstration of love. Can you tell me, I mean, if somebody wants to buy this book for their child, what would be the appropriate age for someone to read the book? I know the SS students are reading it, but what would be an appropriate age?
Teenagers.
Teenagers.
Teenage who are permitted to young adults. In fact, it's very good for young people who want to know much of Ghanaian history, particularly Asante history. It doesn't tell all the story. Like I told Otunfo when I met him, he asked me, how is the story? And I said, oh, you know, the history and the tradition of Ashanti is very big. I only chipped a little bit of it and tried to tell stories, some of which are true, some of which are not true. Then he said, hey, which part is not true? I said, oh, they are all true.
Yeah.
But the not true part, which is not untruth. Not true part is that they are fiction. But the true part are things that you can see and relate to personally by yourself. Like you said, you read certain parts that you felt that you were yourself involved in the particular scenes of the book. Exactly the way that I wanted it to look like. So young people who want to know much of the Ashanti tradition, that's what the celebration of the Akweside, I had to take my time to run us through some of the things that are done in the face of the general public so that people can easily, when they come and so you said this, I didn't see it. No, I want what the Otunfo celebrates in public. are those that I put across for people to read and appreciate, those who don't know the culture, at least, so that young people who have a desire and urge to come to Africa to see what is in Africa, this should be a starting point where it will let you come. Apart from tourism, you can come and learn tradition, you can come and learn history, you can come and meet people, real people who lived beyond when the people were carried to the diaspora to work. You can meet back your ancestors back in their homes in modern life. We are not living in trees. We are living in modern scientific age. Like we have satellite, we have internet, we have cars and airplanes, businesses like we do in America or elsewhere. People who want to come, this is a very good source for them to start hearing about Ghana and coming to Ghana to see the tradition of the people.
Yeah, you talked about Indiana Jones, the movie, and I believe anyone who's seen Indiana Jones remembers, how difficult and treacherous it was for them to try to go into somebody's kingdom and try to, take their possessions. It was a very difficult task. And in this book, there's a lot of similarities. How, people know how sacred the Ashanti kingdom is, and the culture, the traditions, very sacred. Even in fact, when you see a king dancing to Adwa, the symbolism, everything, like you get goosebumps every time you see something like that. I believe I saw the king of Himai went to President Rawlings' mother's funeral recently, and
Yes.
and then the way he displayed the culture, the dance, watching that, you get goosebumps every time. How can people know or believe that there's something truly sacred, not only about the Golden Stool, but the Ashanti Kingdom in general? That there is just something that grabs you. Just even seeing the way we talk about traditions, our history and everything like that. Can you, elaborate a little bit on that aspect of our culture?
You see, the whole tradition is the way of life of the people. And you see, with modern day developments of science and religion, that is what is trying to make the traditional or the African religion look different.
Mm-hmm.
So all religions are ancestral worship. And the Asante kingdom, I can say, is the best example of it, because every king that sits on the stool, whenever he leaves, they don't even say that he is dead. They say he's gone to the village,
Mm-hmm.
which means he still lives after his life on the physical earth. Then he starts his spiritual journey. They are the people who are supposed to protect the kingdom. And the symbolism that I use the book to build is that the kings, the past kings, are supposed to be in fact, they are the guardians of the Golden Stool, which is the spirit that holds the kingdom of Asante together. If what I perceive is the correct thing, then it means that every king that passes on has a responsibility of the protection of the Golden Stool, so that it will also protect the general population that he had ruled over. And if you look at it from there, everything about our tradition, which people did not understand, they either call it heathen or fetish.
Mm-hmm.
Take Christianity, take Islam. There's always a spiritual leader in all their dealings. Why should you call the Nsumankwa, who is supposed to be the spiritual leader, a spiritual head of the kingdom, for him, when you look at him, you say he's a fetish? Meanwhile, he is not a fetish. He is a priest. He's a priest, just like the Christian priest or any imam who leads a congregation. His is to perform a duty to protect the kingdom, the people in their lives, and also help in the prosperity of the nation. So books like what we have here are those things that try to get people to understand the usefulness of societies as the Ashantis are built as of today. It was there, but it started off as a union government or a confederation from the time of Setutu saw the need to bring his colleague paramount chiefs around to come together to start the nation. And it has built on like that. I don't think there will come a time that anybody, whether it is a democratic government or a military government, in fact, some of them have tried before, trying to find a way to suppress the Ashanti kingdom. It will never happen. It can never happen. And I can tell you that the survival of Ghana is dependent on Assassination. It is evident. When the colonialists came to Africa, those who hit the coast of Gold Coast, they couldn't move up north because of Asante Kingdom. When they came and they stopped them. It had to take several years of war to be able to overcome them. And the Asantes were business people. They wanted to stand in between them and the business up north to the Sahara. And the British wanted to move in. And I said, no way, you cannot come. You see, and in their old fashion, the way they did in India and the way they did in other places in trying to overcome the people, they found the Asante people too much to handle. And it is what it is today that I can tell you for a fact that no power state can without the power of Asante in current state of affairs.
Yeah, I think you know, most people in Ghana or followers of Ghana do understand the enormous powers or influence of the Ashanti king and the people of the Ashanti kingdom. Really, not only within the borders of Ashanti, but outside. You know, the king has been seen, you know, intervening in several conflicts around the country. In fact, he's been the go-to person whenever there is something beyond the government's influence, you know, and that has been something that has brought a lot of peace in the country. I mean, he's done quite a lot. He's been recognized for that. So there's no question about his influence and the influence of the kingdom. But you know, another area that I want to go back on was that's not only the sacredness of the Golden Stool, but something that we've all come to know, that there is some protection that the people of Asante get from their past kings, you know, who have long the ancestors who have been long gone, but they still protect them. And this is what you know, the Akweside Festival does a lot, you know, a lot in terms of recalling or the past, you know, the things that have happened, the kings that have come and gone, the many traditions of the Asante Kingdom. And in this story, in this book, you brought to life what the kings, the ancestors did to protect the Golden Stool, you know, from being taken by a foreigner, you know, who was bent on just taking that for you know, for his selfish ways, right? You know, he was just going to take it and sell the Golden Stool. But the fight that ensued, you know, at some point or somewhere in Kumasi, that I you know, I'm not at liberty to say because you have to read the book, but it brought to life, because we know that when libations are poured, we ask for protection, right, from our ancestors. And this came to life during the book, in your storyline, that yes, they actually stood up and defended the kingdom from this adversary. Can you touch a little bit on that as we get ready to close?
You see, in real life, anyone who becomes, let me give this caveat that I am not what do you call an authority on Asante history. No, the little that I have read and what I think my personal impressions are what I'm saying. I could be wrong, but what I feel is that from wherever you are, whichever king that whoever sits on the stool, they call him the occupant of the golden stool. If you occupy the stool, it means you become the embodiment of the stool. And that is how they see it. And once you sit on the stool, you and the stool become one. You become one. And if you become one, then it is incumbent on you to protect the sanctity, the survival of the stool for the prosperity and survival of the nation. Asante is built around the golden stool. It is surviving around the golden stool. Without the golden stool, there is no Asante. There will not be any king because the king will not have the golden stool to sit on. You see, so it's the soul of the kingdom. What would the soul, when it's taken away, what would the kingdom become? Soulless, and it's dead. So the people revere the sanctity of the golden stool as more or less their lives, and therefore they protect it and do everything that they are supposed to do to celebrate it, to make it what it's supposed to hold for them. So, like I said, every 6 weeks, it is celebrated to bring home to the people that this is where your power is. This is where your survival is. This is where your ancestors started from. And you should cling to it so that the nation can be strong, so that it can stand against any oppression. That is the symbolism that golden stool, to my understanding, holds for the people of Asante. And therefore, if they have to bring their stools out, because every chief, paramount chief around the area has a symbolic stool, just as the golden stool. When that king or chief dies, his seat is preserved because it's supposed to hold the soul of the one who sat on it. And it is the only link that they can hold to the departed king. So if you want a departed king that you know he has been a good king and his spirit should come and support the living and help them to prosper and survive, that is the only media you have to go through, the stools that the people have preserved of their past ancestors. So if the stool is there, that is a symbol that it holds to the people of Asante. And I can tell you that the people of Asante are very, very proud to be, as it were, servants of the golden stool and to serve it and hold the king who sits on it as their king. Yeah. In fact, they call him Lord. They call Otu for Lord, Yewura, Asanteman, Lord of Asante. And once he's your Lord, it's more or less your life. And any serious Asante person holds this as his life.
Very well put. I know you're working very hard to bring this story to the movie screens. In fact, that's something that that's how you started the book, and now we have a book. So before it comes on the movie screens, because that's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah.
The book is available on Amazon. It's available in Barnes and Nobles, and there's one more place.
Author House.
Author House. Okay.
Yes.
So if you go to Amazon now, you can find the book. You can order it. grab a copy. I have to tell you, I mean, if you don't have to be an Asante or any, to really understand the book or to like the book. The storyline would teach you a lot about, your culture, or as a Ghanaian, or, even as an African, because I mentioned that there are a lot of similarities between this book and Chinua Achebe's book. So in fact, if you haven't read any book from Africa that comes to line with Chinua Achebe's book, Things Fall Apart, I will encourage you to read this book, Mysteries of the Golden Stool. For your first book, I must, applaud you for a wonderful job done, because anyone that grabs that book, you are hooked. You are hooked on it until you are done, and the story just keeps reverberating back in your mind. There's just such a richness to not only to the tradition, but how the storyline was put together. So I will encourage everyone to grab a book on Amazon, on Barnes and Nobles, and then Author House, as you mentioned.
Yeah, one thing I would say is that when you go online to look for the book, please remember to type the name in full,
Okay.
not just Golden Stool. Mm-hmm. There are other books that have been written by other authors on Golden Stool. So if you are able to write at least the mysteries of Golden Stool, or mystery of the Golden Stool, it will help you to get to the link properly. Mysteries of the Golden Stool. The cover looks like this. It has the golden stool, and then the state sword of Asante. There, it's like this. So whenever you go online, you should see this, not only the golden stool. And I'm sure you enjoy reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nsia. And I must say, thank you for taking the time to join us all the way from Ghana. Again, I apologize to our audience. In the beginning, we had some issues, so there were some delays, but we've been able to connect, and we've spoken, discuss some aspects of your book, because it's a story that we couldn't just put it out there because we want everybody to read the book. And I appreciate you taking the time to join us. So again, if you are with us, the name of the book is Mysteries of the Golden Stool. It's a historical fiction, a fantasy adventure of the Golden Stool, right? So it's not just a history book. A lot of people say, oh, history is boring. This one will take you beyond history. You learn history, you learn some aspects of modern technology. There's a lot of adventure in it. There's love stories. There's a lot that you gain from this book. So I encourage you to get a copy of this book and share it with your friends. If you want, Christmas is coming. If you want to give somebody a nice gift, really give them a copy of this book. You'll be glad you did, because it's a really phenomenal book. And I hope it comes to the movie screens very soon.
Yeah, Freddie, I want to say something. After launching in London, I was also looking forward to come to the US to do a launch there too. Unfortunately, almighty COVID couldn't let it come. I had planned that sometime around June, I was going to come. But I'm hoping that I'll have the opportunity to come to meet the people in the US and interact with them, and also find a way of getting them to appreciate what we tried to sell to them as our tradition and culture.
Thank you.
So let's all pray that the pandemic will ease out quickly, so that God willing next year we'll have the opportunity to come over. At least we should be able to tour the East Coast, and perhaps what do you call them?
The West Coast.
Chicago, or if we're able to go to.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll attempt to do that. So okay. Look out for it. But in the meantime, don't forget the book. That's the most important thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nsia. And again, thank you for joining us, taking the time to join us. We appreciate your help. We appreciate you helping us to understand something about the Golden Stool. But again, we want everyone to read the book, so we couldn't give out a lot of the secrets or the stories that are in the book. So please get a copy of the book. And thank you again for everyone for joining us. We appreciate your time and your patience during the, the few issues we had in the beginning. And I must say we have, since we started this program, we've had some very interesting people that have come on, to talk to us. And we try to give you something different every time we come on. And we've had some history lessons today. And, next week we have something new coming. So next week we're going to be joined by State Senator Dr. Saud Anwar. Dr. Saud Anwar. He is a state senator for he covers East Hartford, Glastonbury, and East Windsor in Connecticut. He's also a medical doctor that has worked with a lot of Ghanaians, within the East Hartford, Manchester areas. He deals a lot with a lot of COVID patients. He's done a lot of work with COVID, and he's going to talk to us about the elections coming up on November 3rd, and then what Connecticut has done, in helping to bring down the COVID number of COVID cases. And as you all know, Connecticut is doing a very phenomenal job, and he's going to come and talk to us about that and his plans for the state. He has a lot of Ghanaians in his constituency, so I should say his district, so please join in next week. We'll provide information on our website tomorrow. So please tune in next Friday. That interview will be next Friday at 5 p.m. Because of his schedule, we had to move it to next Friday. So please, we'll provide some information. Please join us. So Mr. Nsia, thank you for joining us again. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we appreciate all your help and support. Please get a copy of the book, Mysteries of the Golden Stool. Mysteries of the Golden Stool.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.